Hello and welcome to Countdown to Power with me, Graeme Pryce. The Right Honourable Dame Priti Patel. Hey. The Tories have carried the unofficial moniker of the nasty party for many years now, and it's well deserved. It's not difficult to pick out characters amongst the Conservative Party that display pantomime villain levels of evil and malevolence, is it? If you really want to pick out a face that personifies the sheer smug arrogance and contempt for the public with which the Tories operate, though, it's definitely the Right Honourable Dame Priti Patel. Her smug fucking face has been with us since 2010 when she was elected MP for Witham. She was heavily involved in the Leave campaign and she was Secretary of State for International Development for a while. Eventually, Cockwomble Johnson made her Home Secretary in 2019. She would undoubtedly be remembered as the most racist and evil Home Secretary if Suella Braverman hadn't actually gone on to be an even more racist and evil Home Secretary than she was. Interesting times we live in, eh? Priti Patel increased her vote share in 2019 to 66.6% of the vote in her area. 666. Priti Patel. Pretty demonic. What a satanic shocker. Anyway, I think she's absolutely horrible. She was then, and she is now, and I'll tell you why I think so right after this. Hey, sorry to interrupt, just a quick interjection. The best way to help the channel and beat the algorithms is to hit the like button, leave a comment when we're done, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you really want to help the channel, then hit the join button below, or make a donation through PayPal or buy me a coffee. The links are in the description box. It's all very much appreciated indeed. Thank you. During Priti Patel's time as Home Secretary, the most senior civil servant, Sir Philip Rutnam, resigned after a heated debate with her, citing allegations of shouting, swearing, belittling people, making unreasonable and repeated demands, and creating fear in the workplace. When trying to address these allegations in defence of his staff, Sir Philip Rutnam was the victim of a vicious and orchestrated campaign against him. This led to a further 2 departments placing allegations that Priti Patel had been bullying staff within them, which sounds a bit snowflakey, doesn't it? Bullying, yeah. Until you realise that this bullying was so bad that a £25,000 payment was made to a senior aide who threatened to bring a lawsuit against Dame Patel for her treatment while working in her department. I think it's moved beyond bullying and into outright workplace harassment at that point, but Boris didn't agree. No. For some baffling and obviously undemocratic reason, after an 8-month investigation, it was Boris Johnson that was allowed to be the final arbiter on the findings. He decided that she hadn't broken the ministerial code, and everybody except her was obviously just lying, or being a bit of a softie and not understanding her unique working methods. The matter was closed. We should just move on. Sir Philip Rutnam apparently didn't move on though, and his claims were obviously taken a bit more seriously by the Tories' legal department than twat flapper Johnson took them. In 2021, the Conservatives offered Sir Philip £370,000 to drop his case against the Right Honourable Dame Priti Patel. He took the money. He's a Tory though, so it's pretty unsurprising. There are a few things that anybody who claims to be an Englishman would cite if you asked them about UK culture, and one of them would certainly be football and our pride in our national team over the years. Well, some of us have pride in our national team anyway. Others, like Priti Patel or Lee Anderson, have tried to use our nationally beloved game to score political points quite a few times. When the George Floyd incident happened and many of us felt appalled and compelled to show solidarity, Priti Patel felt a little bit different, and she certainly didn't like the Black Lives Matter movement either. She was outraged when football players started taking the knee before matches and branded their show of solidarity gesture politics. There'd been some booing at a recent match, and when asked if she thought it was appropriate and whether it should be allowed at the next match, she said, "Well, that's a choice for them, quite frankly." Even Johnson wasn't letting her get away with that one, and he stepped in to say fans should be encouraging, not booing the players. But he didn't condemn a gesture politics comment though. Thankfully, as the smartest of us tend to know, empty vessels make the loudest noise. and at the next match, any booing was vastly drowned out by cheering. But this was to be expected, really, as polling questions have by then revealed that the vast majority of fans either agreed with the players taking the knee or weren't offended by the gesture in any way. As usual, the Tories, Graeme Pryce in particular, were trying to play to the racist minority of society rather than the normal decent people in society. Pretty disgusting, really. In November of 2017, news started trickling out that Priti Patel, accompanied by the ominously named Lord Polak, who sounds like he should be in command of a Death Star rather than actually being the honorary president of the Conservative Friends of Israel. In fact, it came out that they'd enjoyed a series of secret meetings with leading right-wing figures in Israel, including Benjamin Netanyahu himself. So secret, in fact, that the exact number still isn't known even now, though it's thought to be at least 12. First, Graeme Patel claimed the Prime Minister, Theresa May at the time, and the Foreign Office had known about the meetings. But when British diplomats in Israel said they actually had no idea about them, she had to decide on a new lie, and she started saying she'd just been there on holiday. There was nothing strange, unconstitutional or illegal about her going to Israel on holiday and having at least 6 meetings with Israeli officials to discuss moving UK public money to Israeli charities in Gaza and Golan Heights. There was nothing unconstitutional or illegal about that at all. It's the type of thing we all get up to on holiday. And, of course, Lord Polak had taken the weekend off from the Death Star to go with her. She was called in by Theresa May, but she obviously just got it telling off and she was allowed to make a pathetic, arrogant apology. But then a bit more came out. There were at least 8 meetings, and she had discussed official government policies during these meetings. It seems the lying cow hadn't been quite honest enough with the Prime Minister, and she was summoned back again, and not allowed to make an apology this time. She resigned in disgrace and returned to the backbenches for nearly 2 years. We never did find out exactly what the meetings were about either. Pretty sneaky. What sort of voting record do you think Dame Priti Patel has got? Bear in mind that until Suella Braverman came along and made her look tame, Priti Patel was regularly being cited as the worst Home Secretary in UK history. That look on her face isn't just for show. She genuinely believes you're beneath her. That's why she's voted 5 times against laws to promote equality and human rights, and why she's always voted against equal rights for LGBT people, and why she's voted against same-sex marriage at every opportunity. She hates the idea of affordable council housing too, and she doesn't want landlords having to behave decently and pay the way either. That's why she's voted 5 times against secure tenancies for life, and 8 times against landlords having to pay the costs of their own buildings being brought up to safety standards. She probably thinks that should be passed on to the tenants, doesn't she? Oh, and she's a landlord, and so are her parents. They're currently involved in a court case regarding them seriously overpricing 3 leaseholds and attempting to pass the costs onto their tenants. They claim it was a mistake. And she's voted 28 times to reduce welfare benefits across the board, obviously, but there's no surprise there. She's a Tory, isn't she? I've yet to come across a Tory that's had the decency to stand up just once and say, actually, this bill will make all of my unemployed and disabled constituents much poorer. I can't vote for this. Just one. Pretty fucking cruel. It's easy to forget after a few years just some of the absolutely crazy bullshit that the likes of Priti Patel, Nigel Farage and Dominic fucking Cummings spread about during the whole Brexit thing before and after the referendum. There was one thing Dame Priti Patel said though that I think we'll end on, because it shows just how deeply heartless, arrogant and utterly without pity the Tories are, not to mention just plain ignorant. I say Tories rather than just Patel, because none of this is surprising. Any one of them could have done any one of these things and we wouldn't be surprised, would we? You'd think somebody who claims to have pride in the UK and be part of the most patriotic party would have a bit of a better understanding of our history though, wouldn't you? especially our times of strife and trouble and famine. In 2018, a report was released that warned of significant harm to the economies of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland if a hard Brexit was pursued. The report stated that such a scenario would certainly lead to food shortages. Grain and potatoes were mentioned. Crazy Brexit bitches and knobheads like Patel and Johnson had already completely lost sight of anything other than trying to pretend that Brexit was a success, though, despite the clear evidence to the contrary, even just then, that it wasn't. And Ballbag Johnson was no doubt being advised of how he could use it to ride to an election victory if they could just think of the perfect three-word slogan and get Theresa May out of the way. Dame Patel stepped up and asked why on earth this hadn't been mentioned in the negotiations and used as leverage. She claimed it was taken out of context, and of course there are no consequences for anything that Tories say. But let's just make sure we remember that the Right Honourable Dame Priti Patel is the Home Secretary that wanted to bully Ireland into accepting a no-deal Brexit by threatening a new potato famine. Pretty unbelievable, ain't it? Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. I tried to make this one a little bit shorter. I felt I got a little bit carried away with the David Cameron one. And I can't expect you to listen to me and the dog sitting here slagging the Tories off all day, can I? Make sure you've subscribed and hit the bell icon if you haven't already. And if I've left out anything that pretty fucking Smoke Patel did that you were particularly disgusted by, please do let us know in the comments. I find it hard to believe that anybody could like her, let alone vote for her. But if you think she was a great Home Secretary and would really love her to be the next leader of the Conservative Party, then let us know why you think that in the comments below as well. If you'd like to support the channel, there are links to PayPal, Patreon and the Buy Me a Coffee page, along with Dame Patel's voting record in the description box. The join button for memberships is down there as well. Priti Patel is in one of the safest Conservative seats in the country. It was only created in 2010 and she's been the MP for it for the whole time. Sadly, it looks like she won't be one of the MPs that we get to watch defeated in a sports hall at 3 AM on election night. But with some common sense, a bit of tactical voting and a lot of luck, she'll be one of the very few Tory MPs still left at the end of our countdown to power. Common sense, some tactical voting and a lot of luck. Turning into Cilla Black, but with less hair. Jeez.